Greetings, Math 10 students. In this video we're going to take a look at converting between mixed number and improper fraction format. This is section 2.8 of the textbook. So to begin with, what is an improper fraction? It's a fraction that's greater than or equal to one whole. We typically use fractions to measure numbers that are less than one whole, but you can also use them to measure numbers that are between whole numbers. You might also think of improper fractions as fractions where the top is greater than or equal to the bottom. The numerator is larger than or equal to the denominator. Now that equal to is important. You could have a fraction that's equal to 1, and that's if the numerator and denominator are equal. The way to think about this is your denominator is supposed to tell you how many parts make up one whole. So if the numerator is the same, you have exactly enough parts to make up one whole, so your fraction is equal to 1. If the numerator is bigger than the denominator, you have more parts than make up a whole, so the fraction is greater than 1. Let's take a look at an example. 5 halves. The top is definitely larger than the bottom here. And one way to think about this is that denominator of 2 is telling me that I have 2 parts making up a whole. I can think about it as rolling out some dough to make a pizza, and I cut that pizza in half into 2 pieces. So that's 1 half there, and 2 halves of my pizza make up one whole. But I need 5 halves. I got a lot of mouths to feed. So I'm going to roll out some more dough and make another pizza. And I'm going to cut that one in half as well. So here's my 3rd half and my 4th half. I now have 4 halves on the table, and I need to still make some more. So I'm going to roll out one more pizza here and cut that in half. And this is going to give me my 5th half of the pizza. That last part can get discarded. I'm sure someone will eat it eventually, right? So let's take a look at this. You can think about this as 5 halves of a pizza, but you'll also notice that you have 2 whole pizzas right here. So oftentimes you'll, instead of saying 5 halves, talk about this as 2 and 1 half left over, right? That 5th half is the remaining part. This format right here is what's called a mixed number. And we want to talk about converting between improper fraction and mixed number format because both of them are useful for different things. Mixed numbers are nice because they give you a feel for how big a certain number is. It's hard to look at a number like 153/7 and know if is it bigger than 10, is it bigger than 20? It's really hard to tell. But mixed numbers, like 2.5, I can tell you right now that's between 2 and 3 very easily. Unfortunately, mixed numbers are really hard to do computations with, and if you ever have to multiply or divide fractions, you'll have to turn them into improper fractions first. So let's take a look at a method for doing this. We'll take a look at changing an improper fraction to a mixed number first. And you want to be able to do this without having to draw pictures, so there's an algorithmic method for doing this. Let's take a look at this one, 13 quarters or 13 fourths. Our process for this is to divide. And the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to take my denominator, I'm going to abbreviate it here, denominator, and I'm going to divide it into the numerator. So in this case, my denominator is 4, and I'm dividing it into 13. And that's how I'll get my result. Now, if you do this using long division, it's 4 first and then 13. So if you're doing the pencil and paper method in this country, that's how we do it. There are different methods worldwide for doing it. Unfortunately, on a calculator, to get the same result, you'd have to flip that around. You'd actually have 13. You'd hit the divided by button 4. So just be careful with that. Now how many times does 4 go into 13? It goes 3 times. It doesn't go evenly 3 times though, right? 3 times 4 gives me 12, and I can use that to find my remainder. Since 3 times 4 only gives me 12, I can subtract 12 from 13 and find out that I have a remainder of 1. If you were to punch this into your calculator, it would tell you 3 decimal point 25. Now you have to be careful here because the answer isn't 3 2/5. The 3 part, the whole number, your calculator is good at giving you. This right here is not useful for what we're doing now. So my whole number will always be the result or the quotient, and then the remainder here is always going to be your new numerator. So my final answer will be 3 is the whole number, 1 is my numerator. What about the denominator? Well, that stays the same. That's going to be 4 still. Think about it this way. If you have 13 quarters in your pocket, like actual coins, you could call it $3 and 1 quarter left over. The quarters are never going to magically turn into dimes or nickels. The denominator will always stay the same. Let's take a look at it going the other direction now. I'm going to change a mixed number into an improper fraction. Here's my mixed number. It's 9 3/7. So what is my process here? I think about it as the opposite. Instead of dividing and then subtracting to find my remainder, I'm going to multiply, then add. So you're going to multiply your denominator times your whole number plus the numerator. And I like to sometimes draw a little arrow going around here just to remind me how that works. You start on the bottom with the denominator, multiply by the whole number, and then add the numerator. I'm using a little dot for multiplication there because otherwise it's kind of hard to tell the plus sign and times apart. So it's going to be 7 times 9 and then plus my 3. So 7 times 9 will give me 63, and then plus 3 will give me 66 as my new numerator, and again the denominator always stays the same for these questions. So 66/7 will be my final answer. To summarize, mixed numbers and improper fractions are just two different ways of representing the same kinds of numbers, and you can convert between them. Converting from a mixed number to an improper fraction involves multiplication then addition, and then going the other way from an improper fraction to a mixed number involves dividing and then subtracting to find the numerator.